Hey, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to today's important discussion with the topic of fostering inclusive excellence, a path forward in both recruitment, mentorship, and promotion. My name is Mark Santiago, and I'll be serving as your moderator for this session this afternoon. Off-Duty Management, in partnership with the FBI National Academy Associates, is proud to welcome you to this webinar this afternoon. We're excited to have such a dedicated group of professionals here as we explore how fostering inclusive excellence in police recruitment, mentorship, and promotion can shape the future of law enforcement. Inclusive excellence is a lot more than just a goal. It's essential in building police forces that truly reflect and serve our diverse communities. Trust between those law enforcement agencies and communities is the key to this success. A workforce that mirrors the community, fosters diverse perspectives, and creates equitable opportunity for all officers is a crucial component of that trust. We're going to be speaking this afternoon about three specific areas. The first one's going to be recruitment strategies and enhanced diversity. We're also going to be discussing the mentorship and what role that plays in developing diverse talent. And lastly, we're going to be discussing the promotional practices that ensure fair and equitable advancement. At the conclusion of this, we'll be able to give an opportunity, time allowing, to answer any questions. So the manner in which you can pose a question is either in the chat box or in the question and answer. Once you pose that question, we will try to answer as many as we can. For those questions that time does not allow us enough time to get to, we will follow up. We'll be sending out a follow-up correspondence, during which time we will answer all those questions that were posed here this afternoon. So I'm so excited and pleased to be able to introduce this great panel that has a tremendous amount of knowledge, motivation, and practical experience in these topics. So I'm going to start with Nora Bastone, as the superintendent for the Boston Police Department. So thank you for joining us. Tanzania Carter is the assistant sheriff for the San Francisco Sheriff's Department. Wendy Garcia is the deputy commissioner for the New York City Police Department. And lastly, Brian Polite is a major with the New Jersey State Police. I think he may be joining us momentarily. So we're going to get right into it. So we're going to start with the specific area of recruitment. So if we could, I know, Tanzania, we've had some great conversations in regard to the importance of building those relationships and partnerships with the community and how important they are, specifically in regard to recruitment. So I'd like to just start with you. If you could just kind of share those experiences and why you feel they're so important and relevant to recruitment.
Thank you for that. And thank you for having me here, because this is a very important subject. I want to do a little analogy, though, as a car salesman. And we all basically have these cars that we want to sell and get out. Everyone is different. Some of us are Hondas, some of us may be Porsches, but our cars are dependable, and we want people to come in and deal with us. So we need to have the right person who's doing that. If you ever have gone to a car dealer, you know that you have to have the right person who is out there selling the cars. A person who is going to tell you how amazing that car is. A person who will allow you to come in and drive the car. And you have to have a person who's knowledgeable to tell about all the qualities that your car has over anyone else's. You have to sell that car. Representation matters in our police agencies. In the same way that car dealerships have the right person selling that car, we need to have the right people selling our departments, and not selling it in a negative way, but really putting out all the amazing things that we have to offer. So we have to know what our agencies have to offer. We have to know ourselves why we are so good in our agencies. What can we put out to others to let them know why they should come to our department? And then we have to have a recruitment team that can sell what we have going on. We have to have people that represent the community, because representation matters. If anything, when you leave here, I want you to understand that representation matters. That whatever you want to attract to your agencies, you have to put that out in the atmosphere so that people are attracted. If you want more women, you have to have women on your team, so that those women who may not have thought they could be police officers or other agencies or other departments will see you, will be attracted to that, and have a person that they can ask questions to, a person that may understand what they're going through and why they may feel like that could not have been them. But to see someone, another woman or another person of color or another culture, it will attract those people, people that may not have had the opportunity to understand that. And we could stop poaching from each other to have a bigger pond of people. So remember, representation matters. And then the second thing I want to stress is about relationships. If we remember back, the 21st century policing had these 6 points. And the two bookends that I really want to emphasize are building trust and officer wellness. Building trust is about recruitment. It's about being in the community, allowing the community to see you, who you are, what you value, what your core values are, what your heart is really about, so that they can be connected to your department. The best way that we can recruit is to be out in the community, building trust so that other partnerships can forge. I was thinking earlier today, having a relationship with a church, forging relationships that you may not have thought about so that the word can get out about your agency. So relationships matter, and representation. And then officer wellness. If we value our people, they are our best salespersons. They are the ones who are going to sell the car. And if you have a salesperson who says bad things about the department, we're never going to get anyone in our agencies. But when you have people who know that you value them, they will be the ones going out and telling other people wholeheartedly how important your agency is, how amazing your agency is, so that you can get the people, the right people into your agency. So for me, Mark, representation matters and relationship matters.
And we spoke, we've had a couple of meetings in advance of this, and we spoke specifically about the importance of when we send out, if we're fortunate enough to have recruitment teams, that these teams accurately reflect the communities that we're trying to recruit folks from. Because if they don't, it's going to make that challenge and that recruitment process even more and more difficult. And I know if you could, Tanzania, if you could just share, and I know the community relations is so important, just maybe a few examples of what you've been able to do with your agency to forge and solidify those relationships.
So we have a very unique department in the sense it's the city and the county, and we have a lot of different groups that we connect with, that we communicate with. And every time that I speak to community members, and when they ask me about policing and things like that, I let them know what we're looking for, what the core values are. We want the guardian, mentality now. We're looking for people who not only will be able to handle business, but people who have and show compassion, people with empathy, people who are able to communicate. And you will find that the people in the community will tell you about folks that they know in their own, families, people in their communities. They will be your best leads because they understand, and we understand the importance of working with our community. So for us at the Sheriff's Office, not only we just had, of course, some of you as well, Faith in Blue. The Faith in Blue this last year, we had a Citizens Academy. We invited some folks from the church to come up and to really know who we are, what we're about. And they're excited about working with us even more. Those small relationship builders goes a long way because they stretch out more than just an event. It's something that is continuous and will always build up. And so think of it as small investments to the greater good of what you're looking for. There's other things that we can do. You can always build a cadet program, internships. People talk a lot about ride-alongs. They want to do ride-alongs to see if they fit in your department. But even when we do those things, it could be the best structure, like a mentoring program, which you'll talk about later. You could have the best structure of a mentoring program or a cadet program. But unless you build relationships with the people that are coming in, unless they see themselves in you, they're not going to stay. So it really boils down to relationships and representation.
No, I think you really hit the key points that we wanted to, and I would just want to add, I know a lot of ways when you're trying to build up in community is a Trooper Youth Program, and I know we have one in New Jersey. I'm sure some of these organizations. So it's a good way again to build out those relationships, and it is an ongoing process. It is not a one-time plug and play situation. Any relationship that you're going to work on requires continued work and effort as you move forward. So it's not a one-time event. We had a great community event, and then we kind of leave it alone and expect that it's gonna change things. As you said, it's an ongoing process that we continually have to nurture and make sure we're putting that effort in to be able to get the results we're hoping to get from a recruitment standpoint.
Yep. And Mark, can I just say too, a little bit about social media, because as I'm saying that we have to show, representation and a relationship, they need to see that on your social media pages as well. If all of us went to your social media pages and your website, your main website, what would people say about you? Who are you focusing on or highlighting on your website? What promotional people, if I look to see who is in the top echelon, would that person represent me? Are there people that look like me that I can identify with? And so I always encourage people when they're looking to see where's the best fit for them is to look at agencies' websites, because the websites are going to tell you what you're really about. If you're more into tactical, if you're more into community policing, if you're, those websites are the best way to really get into an agency to see what they value. And so I would encourage us to look at our websites to really ask ourselves, are we putting out what we want people to know about us?
Yeah, I mean, I agree, and I think that's such an important point. And you go back to some of the websites 20 years ago, and there were a lot of them were just focused on those tactical, those SWAT teams, and all the toys of the helicopters and things of that nature. But again, if you're looking at it from an outsider's perspective, that may be what you think that they're looking for, when in reality, that's only represents a very, very small portion of what the agency itself represents. So I think that's a great point. And on the social media, I'm going to turn it over to Nora, and I know you had some ideas and some thoughts about how we could use social media in the recruitment realm.
No, thank you again for having me, Mark, and on this amazing panel with everyone. And she stole my thunder right there. But I just want to say everything that you said, it's about being that car salesman, but how do you show that? How do you display that to the community all over? So like she said, representation matters. And we are very unique at the Boston Police because I believe we do a very good job with our social media, meaning a lot of officers, a lot of groups, community service officers, we kind of, on top of the BPD News, we've also created our own social media. In the Police Academy, we have BPD Academy and Be the Future. And what we try to do is we try to show the entire journey of a recruit, from they come in day one, all 35 weeks. We try to humanize it. We try to show they are out in the community, building those relationships that she talked about, but displaying that in churches, in DYF facilities. And if you don't show it on these platforms, then people don't know it exists. And I know people like to go to the websites and everything, but if you don't have it on Instagram and where the younger generation goes, and TikTok videos, and I have all my younger officers who I think really know how to capture and really know how to make an impact on that younger generation to encourage them to want to join the police. But the other thing that we also need to do on our social media is make sure that we bring the community, also show the community shows us on their social media. So that partnership and that relationship is so important, because nothing's more powerful than when a community member shows off the recruits. When the community member says, look at the officers that just showed up, and it comes from their platform. And that is something that we are real beneficial to have at the Boston Police, because our community partnerships are so strong, but nothing is more stronger than when it's reversed, when it's coming from, our community partners and they're showing that the recruits are out every day, or the recruits we have women. For the first time in the history of the Boston Police, we have our top leadership of females. Our class president, our secretary, and our treasurer, all females. And I can't wait to display that picture. I think of the old generation when I came on, of the men kind of jacked with their arms crossed, and it shows like, do you want to be part of this? And I'm like, that doesn't look like me. But when they show those 3 females and I made them pose like this, and I can't wait till they graduate to put that picture out of their pride to say that this can be you because this is you. And that's exactly what we show in the Boston Police. So I just, same thing to echo, if you don't show it, and people become, the national narrative becomes yours. But we have so many people in the Boston Police that show the amazing work that we do every day and how we're out in our community connecting.
Yeah, I think those are some great points, and they're all in line. I think the one thing, and then we'll move on, is that you really highlighted that I think is very important, is it's not a one-way street. We can control the content, but if we get that buy-in and you get that relationship building and partnership from them either following or sending or responding, that shows you that you have that buy-in and that it's not just a one-way street. This is what we're showing, but we're saying this is the reaction that we're getting, and I think that's equally as important. So that was a great point, and I appreciate that point. We're gonna move on to the next topic, and again, the next topic is just going to be, mentoring. And I was very, very fortunate in my career. I've had some great mentors that really, and I think everybody on this panel can relate to the fact that they have really shaped us early on in our careers, really had such a positive impact on us. And I want to talk specifically about, there's 2 types of mentoring, and we're all probably familiar, both the formal and the informal. So Nora, I want to turn it over to you and just have you address both of those topics, but also, if you could, and I know you've just started a new program, the LEAD program, if you could also just discuss that and what was the theory, and I know it's a new program, but what was the motivation behind it, and how were you able to implement it?
Well, the motivation behind it is because for years we have done an amazing job, and I'm talking about the female mentorship here because that was always my focus. We had Women in Blue many years ago, and basically we had at one time a bunch of us who played college basketball. And we went around the entire city of Boston, and let me tell you, we beat every school, every AAU team, but it also allowed us to connect to the younger generation. And at one point, I could remember that more officers were showing up that necessarily weren't the best athletes. And I started learning, and other officers said they just want to be part of this. They want to be part of this camaraderie of female officers supporting each other, coming out with veteran officers and younger officers. And I remember seeing a picture of, we would wear Women in Blue shirts, 25 women at a basketball in the park, and the impact that it had when people drive by and said, once again, that recruitment thing, I want to be part of this. But the younger officers saying, I can't believe I'm here with Superintendent Baston or Officer Woods or Sky Canuto, like women that really have a great reputation in the police department, that we were indirectly and formally mentoring the younger generation to want to be us and seeing that they could be us. Through that, we started doing the Molly and Me camp, which is the Massachusetts of Women in Law Enforcement. It's a camp that's run by senior officers, once again, who females just volunteer to come to mentor the young kids, but indirectly, I see them looking up to Sergeant Woods and other people that they want to become looking, like her someday. And what happened was, this class, for the first time, we shifted to the formal mentorship. So it's called LEAD. And I had to ask someone for the acronym today because it's not ladies, and she told me. It's Leadership, Empowerment, and Development. And I love that because it's the 3 things that you want to be able to help people grow, especially females on the show. How they can be leaders in their community and on the police department, to empower them in that camaraderie and that sisterhood again, and how do we develop them? So it's not just the mentorship of, we hang out, we're going to be socializing and building relationships with them, but how do we take them through their journey so they become leaders like us? We had enough people sign up. There's 28 females in this class. We first thought it was going to be 1-to-1 ratio. And then we had enough females that signed up, 2-to-1 ratio, that it's 1-to-1 ratio. And at our first social event, we were able to do 2 females to 2 recruits, female officers. So it's a 2-to-2 ratio. And that's because some officers are mothers who can relate to other mother recruits. Some are veterans. And this type of mentorship, that is our first formalized mentorship that just started. I'm very eager to see where this takes us, because we've never had that out of the gate. why they're at the academy, and take them through the journey. It's going to be a 1-year program. And to really have that, and we have sergeants, we have lieutenant detectives. I was really surprised of the outpour of people that wanted to give back, female officers that wanted to give back. And I'm just looking forward to this more formal, but we've done an amazing job with the Boston Police of this informal, but how do we take this to the formal? But we have great leaders, like I said, who run these other programs, who have stepped up again to lead. So hopefully in another year, I can tell you how we're doing, but amazing type of thing, and so important for our young female officers for retention, for growth, and to feel accepted, right? Retention is all about, do I belong? Am I supported? Can I grow in this occupation? And we've done an amazing job in the Boston Police, and I'm very proud of it.
I was so excited when we started this, because even though it's in its infancy, it just seems like a lot of the mentoring that we have discussed has been once they're already on the job, but to kind of move that to that next level and get them as early on in their careers as they can, I think is a valuable and great asset. And I just want to, at this point, so Brian Polite and I, about 2 years ago, had the opportunity to go meet with the NYPD, and specifically Wendy Garcia. And as I told her right before this call, we were feeling pretty good and confident about the great job we were doing and how great our mentoring program was. And about 5 minutes into her presentation, we realized that we had a long way to go, and it's okay. But I think the fact that she's been able to raise that bar inspires all of us to know that it can be done, and that just because we're thinking that we're doing a great job doesn't mean we're not, but it means we may need to change and we may need to grow. And that program, and in particular the Women's Institute that she described to us that day, was so motivational and in terms of being able to not just use it as a theory, but put it into practicality. So Wendy, I'm wondering if you could just share a few insights and moments and educate the rest of the group that's on with us this afternoon about how that process worked and where you are with that. I think you're on mute.
I just said absolutely, and thank you, Mark. And you are doing a good job. You're still doing a great job. I think we both learned a lot that day about where law enforcement is in general around women's issues and representation playing a big role. And so for us at NYPD, because we are the largest law enforcement agency in the nation, we're also the most diverse in the nation. We have a lot of responsibility. And there is a reality that comes with that as you grow and you do become the most diverse and your department begins to look like the communities it serves, you now have a responsibility to retain that. And as work culture demographic shifts, we also have to shift culture at the same time. And one of the challenges that we were facing is that as we were growing on the recruit level, on the PO level, on the detective level, that middle ground, like when you think of that sandwich, that middle ground was still the department from a decade ago. So we had to come up with a program that addressed leadership, but also addressed women being able to navigate across such a large department. I'm sure you all have some experience at Boston PD, where you probably can do anything, right? If you want to be a doctor, you can be a doctor in Boston. At least in NYPD, you can. You like horses? We have that too. You want to think about working with technology and just focusing on technology and fraud, there really isn't anything that you cannot do in the police department, except knowing about it was the biggest challenge. And because knowing about it was a challenge, it hindered many communities, specifically women, right? We talk about this concept of the all boys club, this idea that you share information with the people you know, which means if you're a male, you're going to share most likely with a male. That's human nature, right? Just like if you're female, you're going to share with another female. And so we built this program, the Women's Institute. The idea was so it can do three things. It can help you navigate through the department in a very large with a large setting, that it will help you connect, but also get to know women who will be more like sponsors to you in the department as you're moving through the program. You can get inspired, which means you can see the chief, who is also a woman, who is also the head of the Detectives Bureau. You can see the first woman on the SWAT team. You can see the first woman who is on the scuba team. And these were spaces that women did not get to see, because it was most likely they were going to be either the only one on roll call, or if you were civilian, you were going to be one of the few in your command. That was the story. That still is the largest challenge. So our program, what it does, it's year round. It's a 9-month program. We've taken so far, we have about 300 women who've gone through the program thus far. It's 3 years old, so it's gone through 3 cohorts. Each woman, when they come into the program, they spend their launching day with a meeting. The first thing they do is they meet every high-level office in the department. So immediately the first day after we do all the welcome to the Women's Institute, we're happy to be here, they go right into the work. On the first day, they meet with the police commissioner's office. They find out what they do. They meet with strategic initiatives. And we do sort of like what's called an open house. An open house is this concept that we pair you with a bureau that you're more likely to be interested in. A bureau you wouldn't normally have access to, because if you're 0 to 5 years on the job or 0 to 10 years on the job, it's unlikely that you've either left patrol or that you've been able to even navigate these kind of administrative offices that run the agency. That we do that on the first day. Throughout the year, they have to develop themselves. We know that confidence plays a large role, specifically with women. You'll see the research, and the research says that women are more likely to take or go for the promotion if they are overqualified. Where if you look at the male statistics, men just have to have some of the qualifications, and they're like, I could do that. Women, we have to have all of them plus in order to go for it. Listen, there's no right or wrong answer, but we want to get women to the point where they feel confident to go and take that test to be the sergeant, become a captain, and also feel confident that if they are going to go ahead and move forward and taking on a command and be a captain, we don't want them to have to put their family on the side. This department wants to start joining those two efforts together, because many women, you'll hear that story over again. I would go for captain. I would love to have my own command, but I would also like to have a child. And how am I going to manage this 24-hour job and also manage my son or my daughter or my mother who's sick? Whatever the situation is, we know that women in general have a higher burden. So the program then pairs you throughout the next few months with women who have that same testimony. So you get to meet high-level women very early on who can tell you, this is how I did it, this is how I went through it, this is what was offered. The other piece is the women have to come up with a policy project. So they're split up into groups, and part of the discussion is what has happened to you in this department that needs to change. So we had a group of women just last year that just went through the cohort. They recommended that pregnancy needed to be removed as a sick category. We call it CPRs within NYPD, because when that happens, you actually don't qualify for promotions. So a few women came together, they presented that. I brought together a group of chiefs. They presented that to those chiefs. And now we have taken that off the category. So now moving forward, women in the department no longer have to see pregnancy as an impediment to them being able to get promoted. And that just happened in September, a few months ago. I don't want to talk for too long because I know there's more questions, but I just want to say, right now, the Women's Institute has been an evolution. Everything from getting women into special bureaus, elite bureaus. We call it special operations. In other departments, it could be the SWAT team. And we've seen a lot of first women who've come out of the Institute they're taking on a command for the first time because they've gone through the Institute. They received a transfer, the desired transfer, because they got access to the detective bureau chief, and now they know what the process is. Or if it's a civilian, you see them taking on larger roles because someone helped them navigate through that. And I think one of the secret sauces if you're thinking about creating an institute, is that everybody does it on job time. We're not asking anyone to come on a Saturday, on a Tuesday at 7 o'clock, and then have to ask for permission from your XO, your CEO, whether you can make it to this, because we know the answer is going to be, we're down and we need your help. So the institute, you're assigned to my office for that day. It is your regular tour. There's no back and forth on whether you should be here or not. Actually, if you don't show up to the institute, you're not showing up to work. And I think one of the things that has made it special is that we've taken the burden off the women on the job to invest in themselves, and we are putting the burden on the institution to invest in them.
Yeah, I appreciate as I did that day when you first introduced it to us, just the principles and no, a lot of agencies out there want to be able to get to the point and start something up. They just don't know where to start. And I think, just listening to your ideas and not only where to start, but you've kind of seen it, as you said, go through 3 cohorts, which I think is impressive. But I think my takeaway also was, although this one is specifically geared for women, you can see that the blueprint is there to make this and expand it out to other underrepresented groups in the same manner. Once you have that blueprint, once you understand how you go about doing it, you can then kind of spread that out and make it applicable to other groups as well. And I think that's an important takeaway as well from that. And I appreciate both you sharing it with us that day and sharing it with the group here this afternoon.
And Mark, if I can add, we have our mentorship program as well that mimics very similar, as you said. I would say the only distinct on our mentorship programs that we focus on underrepresented communities, which is male, female. And I would say the magic sauce that's different there is that we host sponsorship days. The value system for that program when we launched it was that don't be a mentor. Don't be that person. Like, let me give you advice on how I did it. No, it's more like, let me identify my networks so they can become your networks. Let me show you where I work so you can see what my day-to-day looks like. Mm-hmm. So we put a lot of onus and responsibility on the mentors that participate to offer what made them successful to their mentee.
No, it's a great program, and I certainly learned a lot from it. I think everybody that's on here will equally learn quite a bit. So we're going to transition at this point onto promotion. And I know when we talk about promotion, it's in law enforcement, it's a challenging topic, but it's an important topic to. And I know it elicits strong emotions from people depending on the individual experiences that they have had. So unfortunately, Brian has a little bit of technical difficulties. So I'm going to kind of share his portion that he was going to share with us. And I know in law enforcement, we've done a fantastic job of developing policies and procedures specifically related to promotion. And I think for the most part, we've done a really, really good job of doing that. But in my conversations when I was still with the New Jersey State Police with Brian was, if we develop in our organization, you have preferred criteria that are then utilized to give you a certain score, a certain number of allocation for a certain number of points, and then those points will factor into your final score and whether you get a promotion. So some of that conversation is great policy, but let's peel it back a little bit and take a closer look at what that preferred criteria looks like and how is that preferred criteria really being selected. And and I think what I would encourage everybody to do is take a deeper look at the policies that you currently have in place and look beyond just what the policy and get down to is the distribution of those, whether it's a school, whether it's a specialized training, whether it's a specialized certification, is that distribution of those details being done fairly and equitably? And take a really, really deep dive into that to be able to figure out, because it's important. The policies themselves are great, but it's the practical implementation of those policies that we really need to take a look at to ensure that across the board they are fair and equitable to all groups that are out there and competing for that opportunity. So I'm going to jump over to Nora.
Oh, Mark, can I say something real quick?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to add on to that in fact on, who are we promoting? Because a lot of times, like say I work in the sheriff's office, so we have a lot of deputies. And the people that we promote, they're looking to see their character. We can all kind of teach knowledge. Knowledge base is great, but you can't teach character. And so if we are promoting people who have bad character or a character flaw, or, you know, whatever we want to say, then we're teaching the others, our deputies, our officers, that it doesn't matter about their character. There are core values that we all have in our departments, that it's only about maybe taking a test. We have great people who are great test takers, but other than that, what else do they bring to the table? So I would really encourage some of our chiefs and sheriffs and people who make those decisions about promoting to look at the entire person and what they've done for your agencies while they've been there. Have they been positive influencers, or have they been the people that had influence but went and put people in a different direction? So it's great, as you said, to look at equitable, like testing and things like that when we're promoting, but look at the policies and the procedures on how you're doing it. Because if you're straight test taking, you may be missing out on people who weren't as high, but when you talk about will they pursue the mission that the agency is about, that person may not have been the top 100%, who took the test and just aced it, but it may be a person who passed the test and has so much more to offer. So I just wanted to put that out there, that we may want to definitely look at how the process is for you all, for our agencies as we are promoting up, and to make sure that the value system is aligned with the system of our agencies.
And to echo on that, Mark, I also want to point out, just like you said, if your agency is saying they want to have diversity, but in Boston, like for Boston, for example, there's a lot of, we can't control the test. We're civil service bound. But if we finally have the opportunity, when tests comes out, and I'm going to give the example of the last class, we had 4 females on the entire list of 20 plus males who made it through the first round of possible promotions. They were only promoted in 10. Now you finally have a group of women who can be the next generation of lieutenants, who then can be the next generation of captains, who then, and if you don't point out or have in policy or some sort of mechanism when you have the opportunity to promote the people who stand by your mission statement, who have displayed character, and you have that opportunity to promote them, and you let that pass. So like you said, the departments have to do better to make sure they're promoting the right people when they have the opportunity to do that. And I think that's why I was happy that our commissioner, 30 by 30 is one thing, but the group of women who were eligible last promotion and they got promoted was the testimony of exactly the core values that our department carries, and people that have been pushing our mission statement as patrolmen were elevated.
No, I think those are both great perspectives and great points. Just listen, sometimes the challenge rests in how do we measure those, and that I think is the real challenge. I think how do we develop a mechanism, and we implemented an oral board to give folks beyond just we don't have a written component to ours. I know a lot of departments do, but we have an oral board component to ours as well. So, and I know a lot of departments have a combination of both. And I think I've seen that combination of both is generally seems to work and be more fair to everybody, because you are measuring their knowledge, but you're also giving them during that oral board that opportunity to measure, again, Tanzania and Nora, some of the qualities that you're talking about. Gives them that opportunity to exhibit that they have those qualities and those skills that ultimately we are looking for in terms of promotion.
And now with the oral boards, I will say they're looking at your community engagement. They're looking at are you expanding on your professional development? It goes back to that mentorship. If we know the people under us and we know what it takes to get promoted on top of the test scores, we have to push to that. We have to support that as leaders. So to make sure they're taking those, because the last test that we had in Boston, they were looking at your professional development. Now, not everyone's thinking of that until test time. If we know that as scores, we have to push, but we also have to make sure that they're allowed to go, because it's not a fair group. That's why most of the specialized units, their resumes are really stacked. The people who are working the midnight shift and working day to day who aren't in specialized units, they don't have those opportunities. So we can't use things that not everyone is equal to, but as leaders, and we know these things, pushing out in the community and things that will make them elevate. We have to do a better job, because we know how we got there. And we know those little things that we can control. And I think we, departments are doing a better job. I know we are in Boston trying to promote and elevate people the way we can.
Yeah, I mean, I think those are all great points. And again, it's that peel back the onion a little bit beyond just the policy and see, how are they getting there, and then are we really measuring, and is our test accurately measuring what we really feel are the important core values of qualities that we want to see in people as we consider them for promotion. So again, I think those are great points. And Nora, I know we spoke a little bit about sometimes a stigma that is associated early on in our careers with seeking promotion. So I'm wondering if you could just speak a little bit about that and your experience and what you've encountered in that.
I mean, absolutely. I think this generation is a little bit different than years when I came on. I think they're very young and they want to be promoted before they've done time. They want to make detective. But I do think that, I came on, I was fortunate enough to get promoted early in my career. And I'm glad I didn't listen to the naysayers, because when you are promoted, it opens up a whole grant of opportunities. It allows us, we talked about mentorship, but what comes after mentorship is sponsorship. So when you have people that are elevated and are sergeants, you have community members that are pushing for officers to be in promotion, getting promoted. You have to get rid of that stigma, because without getting the sergeant stripes in Boston, you can't elevate. You can't elevate to the command staff. You can't elevate to specialized unit. So we didn't talk about sponsorship, and that's internal with ourselves and opening doors, but also external with community partners, with city councilors and leadership in government pushing for you. And I think now we're doing a better job of telling people early on, is the earlier the better, because the earlier you have on, the more time you have to grow, the more time you have experience. And all this in the long run, I think for so many years, people didn't want to be on the midnight shift, wanted to make money. But if you look at the bigger picture, and this is where the mentorship comes, what do you want your career path to be? Everything opens the doors when you are promoted. When you are a sergeant, at least the sergeant, it opens so many more opportunities, and also opportunities that allow you to be on a playing field that is not as big as everyone on the ground. So really pushing that. I mean, with 10 years on, I was promoted to the command staff. Within 12 years on the job, I have done NA, Harvard School of Government, and PERF. I would never have done that if I listened to the naysayers that said, you're too young to take the sergeant's test. Make money. And this is where this mentorship comes on, because we know the key to be successful and the key to elevate your career. And I think that's what you just push down to everyone. Take every exam you can. Even if you don't do well, you will learn and grow from every exam you can. But we can't forget about that sponsorship, opening the doors and people talking about you when you're not in the room. And once they make promotion, there's people on the Zoom now that I can't wait, that I know are the future leaders of this department. And it's because they've made rank that I can push and promote them so much more. So that's something that's really important.
Yeah, I appreciate that. We have a couple of questions that are starting to come in, and I think they're important to kind of get out to the panel. So the one I have is, what formal talent management matrix for career advancement do we have that involves key dimensions and indicators for readiness for promotion and special assignments? And I'm going to throw that out. That's a tough, but I think it's a relevant question. So I'm going to throw that out to the panel to see, do you have something formal that's in place? If you do, if you could share, and if you don't, maybe you could just answer what you would envision putting something together that would kind of assess that specifically.
So Mark, I'll take it first. We don't have anything formal at the Sheriff's Department, but in my career, I've had the opportunity to meet some amazing people from Noble. I know that you are going to talk about some of the groups later, but that's really where my career started, and becoming a sergeant and a field training officer. We also have to invest in ourselves. I know we're talking a lot about what we are looking for our agencies, but also invest in yourselves. And one of the best things that I did was invest in myself by joining a group called Noble, which is the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives. And through that, there is the talent management people are there. We go to things like IACP to really go and refuel ourselves and to get more information that we can take back to our agencies. And so these are some of the opportunities that if you don't have something formal, there are groups out there and organizations out there that you can connect with, where you can build relationships with, where people are represented that look like you, that can really lead you to a proper place, a right place for you to promote up and to get what you need to develop your own career. So that's where I would leave it for that question.
Yeah, I think it's a great point, and I know. Look, we will be providing at the conclusion. It is some support organizations, and I know Noble in particular does have a formal mentoring program that that will do exactly what you just described, and you're the result of that. And as a young officer, that this is the importance of being able to see that there are a lot of resources and there are a lot of assets that are out there that outside your organizations that are built and designed to provide you with this support. And as I said, the follow-up email that we're going to send out is just going to give you some of a handful of at least a starting point on where you can go and where you can learn. And Nolly is another great resource, but there's a number of them, and we will include as many of them as we can. And anybody that is involved in this, if you're aware of something specialized that you have encountered that has helped you, please add that to our comment chat and our meeting group so that we can get that also information we may not be aware of, or organizations that we might not be aware of that are out there and designed to help. So please include that so that we can share that with the group as a whole. Do any of the other panelists have anything else they would like to add to that on that particular topic?
Sure. Nora, do you want to go ahead and I'll go after? No, I was just going to say that I think there are different levels of, of having a sense of, just to go to Nora's point on having sponsorship. We have our affinity groups, our fraternal organizations that are NYPD based. Everyone from the local chapter of Noble in New York City to Guardians, and I believe Guardians should be, some people from Guardians should be on this webinar. So also shout out to them if they're on. We have the Latino Peace Officers Association, the Dominican Officers Association. That's the thing with New York, that we have everything. So we have every single affinity group and fraternal. We have over 100. So there is that piece. The second piece is in-house, where we have the Office of Professional Development. So if you want to, for example, about an hour ago, I had the Office of Professional Development in my office working with our officers here on public speaking, because what happens when you become a sergeant, you become a captain, you become an XO, you're the lieutenant, and now you have to speak in front of the press conference, or the chief comes up to you and it's like, what's going on? And you're like, you know everything that's happening, but you get stuck. You don't have time for that, right? The crisis is happening at that moment, but you need to be able to articulate what is happening very quickly. And so these are not skill set that, we don't just wake up one day and just know how to do this. So we have in-house the Office of Professional Development that helps with that, in addition to our mentorship program, which is more like a sponsorship program, and our Women's Institute that does that as well. We have the recruits and cadet program, and through our community affairs department, we do specific outreach to have programs like the options programs that comes out of NYPD, where we take young people and build community relationships with them so that they can see themselves one day also in the uniform. And even if they don't want to be in the uniform, they can see themselves working here in a suit as well, that people can see that there are different options of ways to be in law enforcement. So we're very lucky in that way, in that we have an array of ways that people can engage with us and also see themselves moving up the ranks.
And just to add to that, Mark, about, the promotion, I agree exactly what everyone is saying. I asked mentors of mine like Carmen Bassin-Agier, people that I met at Nobles. Up until 3 or 4 years ago, I was looking on people's Twitters and it says what the infinity groups. I had 0. And everyone said, you're not a member of anything. And they've been going since the rank of sergeants. So if you don't invest in your professional development personally, that is the change maker. You have to invest. I know it's expensive, but people that I look up to, that I ask, how did you get there? They said exactly like that. I joined Nobles when I first started as sergeant, and I said, Sergeant, I just joined 2 years ago. You have to invest in these groups because they offer so much things. They offer professional development that your own department won't offer. Remember, 2,000 plus department we have. Equal, everyone is on the equal. If you go by what the department gives you, everyone's equal. The whole idea is that you rank more than the other ones. And everyone who has been successful as chiefs, if you ask them, they all invest in their own professional development out of their own pocket. And the dividends, it comes on the other end. You have to, so I can't agree more to join Nobles and like Molly and FBINA. There's so many out there that you can travel to these conferences and you really learn a lot at these conferences, IACP, but you have to invest. That is the key, to invest early in your career.
Yeah, I think they're all really, really valuable points. And I think, the investment in your own professional development is something that early on in our careers is a little bit challenging. As we get on and we have more opportunities, as we have more seniority, that becomes a little bit easier. And those of us that have progressed along our career recognize that, in the last few years of your career, you see that value. And then I know all of us, as we reflect back on, what did you learn and what would you have done differently? And I had that conversation with the young officers, and I say exactly what you just said. Become active in those organizations. Don't just go to a meeting, but become active participants, become a president, because they really, really do return on your, because you're investing in yourself, but you're investing in something that's bigger than you, and you're giving back and you're sharing those experiences. And I think, hindsight is always 20/20. I mean, there is some truth to that. And I know those of us that have gotten, towards the end of our careers, as I did, reflect back much differently and have a much different perspective than we probably did with 5 years on. And I think to be able to share those experiences and share those things that maybe we didn't do earlier on in our careers, I think is so important. And again, Tanzania, to your point, join these organizations like Noble. It can really be the difference to folks. And again, we're going to send out an extensive list of these resources that are out there for people to learn from, and then have some other avenue to be able to pursue to give them that added support, because I think it's important. So we do have one other question, which is, I think, a really, really good question. So, and the question is, can we please hear more details on how we are making officers and potential officers feel accepted? And I think this is important, whether we're talking about recruitment or we're talking about mentorship or we're talking about promotion. If they don't feel like they're part of that organization and they're vested, they're less likely to want to pursue those opportunities. So I wanted to put that out to the board and see what your thoughts are on, again, making officers and potential officers feel as if they are accepted.
For me, Mark, it's like procedural justice. Everyone wants to be heard, and not only their voices heard, but active listening. So for me, I deal with a lot of different groups, the recruitment committee, our 30 by 30 committee, and it's really a team effort. It's not about me, it's about us. And so accepting ideas, not only accepting them, but maybe working towards things that, those ideas, so that people feel like they're valued, that their ideas are not, crazy, that we can incorporate certain things. And the acceptance part is really acknowledging people where they are. For us in San Francisco, as you might imagine, it's very diverse in San Francisco, and we are very accepting of cultures. We're accepting of how transgenders, and we have it all in San Francisco. And we understand the value of diverse groups coming together, accepting one another, because we're a better agency because of it. So that when we go out into the community, we have a better awareness, even if it's not our, community or where our experiences are, because I have people in my agency with different experiences, it make us better. It's like gumbo. You got a different variety of everything coming together, and it makes such a great dish. And that's what acceptance is, and having this other diverse group coming together.
And to echo on that, accepted and invited. So when you invite them to your community, anything you have in the community, and you showcase them. I know all of our social media, you'll notice in any department, you're going to see the brass. You're going to see the commissioner, the brass, show the people that normally, the people on the ground, the officers that come to these events that are invited, because when they feel invited and they're part of the team, you have to make people feel like they're part of the team. And if they see a social media that doesn't include them and it's a whole nother department, they don't feel like they're part of the department. So you have to make sure that you invite them and that they are allowed to go to these community events. Because many times if you do that, that is exactly what they want to feel. They want to feel valued is when they're invited. When you don't invite them and they see everything happen, they go, they don't care about me. I wasn't invited to that. But we have to do a better job to making sure that the people in the districts are invited and you showcase that.
I guess I will just add that it matters when people see that they give a recommendation or they have an opinion about something and then they see that there's follow-up on it. A lot of times we're used to participating in conversations where everyone is saying, oh, I think we should do this, I think we should do that. And then that meeting ends and nothing happens. And you just have another meeting about another meeting. I think one of the pillars that we're seeing is working specifically in the Women's Institute is that we give women their voice back and we also give them the responsibility to change what didn't work. So when the groups got together and they were able to present to the chiefs and say, this matters to me. It matters that you are putting pregnancy in sick category on a database. You would think it was a software problem if you never looked at the issue again, because every time you do that, my sick record increases and my counterpart sick record doesn't. And what that does is that it doesn't allow me to go for the promotion. NYPD has been existing for over 178 years, I think is the last number, 178 years. And probably no one ever thought about that technical piece and how it disproportionately impacted women. The reason that happened is because we gave them back their voice. So I think it's critical to give communities that are normally not at the table an opportunity to also solve for the challenges that impact them as well.
And to echo that, Mark, and also give them the credit. So once again, it's not Superintendent Baston who did this. It is the community partner. It is the officer. Because a lot of times when something's good, we want to take the shine. And that doesn't make people feel like they're valued and accepted. That makes them feel hurt and unvalued when you call them a officer. They put their heart and soul into this program. Give them the credit. Give them the credit. When you give them the credit, people don't realize it's still department credit. We're so scared to not say it's Superintendent Baston or Commissioner Cox. It's that officer who put their heart and soul into that. That's what we have to do to make people feel valued and heard.
I mean, just such great things. We're getting towards the end, so I just want to kind of wrap up and sum things up. But first, I've been so humbled and honored to be able to have this opportunity to host this. I would like to thank all the panelists for giving up your time. You know, it took a lot of preparation leading up to this, but we got it off at the last minute without a hitch. So again, thank you so much for your insights, your innovative thinking, and your willingness to share that with folks. I think is so, that collaboration is so valuable. And again, in closing, I would just again like to thank Off-Duty Management and the FBI National Academy Associations for giving us this opportunity to share this forum and this webinar with everything. And we will be sending up some follow-up email to some of the questions we weren't able to answer, as well as getting out some of those resources. So please feel free to continue to contact me. I would encourage everybody that this is the beginning. Let's not make this the end. Let's make this the beginning of a meaningful collaboration nationwide on all these topics, so that we can continue to learn and support each other with the innovative ideas that everybody out there has. And again, that voice and that value is so important to be able to continue and instill in folks. So again, I appreciate everybody's time and all the people that tuned in and logged in for this. I really appreciate your time and your willingness to be open to the ideas that are out there and then share them with us. So again, thanks everyone for participating, and I hope everybody got something valuable for it. I know I certainly did. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mark.
Take care.
Thank you, Mark.
Bye.
Thank you, Mark. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye, you guys.
Take
Bye.
care. Thanks.